It is now time for the Jimmy Party presidential primaries. Starting off with Jimmy Uso winning Maine. Congrats to Jimmy Uso. Jimmy Uso. Jimmy Uso. Jimmy Fallon's won New Hampshire. Jimmy. Jimmy. Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Dore has won Vermont. Jimmy Dore has done pretty well in these primaries, if I remember correctly. The guy's done pretty decently in all the primaries. Jimmy Hart definitely has, though. Jimmy Hart has had the heart of the American population for a while now, and he's already starting off strong by the first to win 2 states. Damn. Jimmy Kimmel almost got out in the last 2 rounds. He just barely won both. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how Jimmy Kimmel does here, because he's been struggling. He's had a struggling campaign for a while now, but he still remains in the race. Okay, Jimmy Kimmel in New York. Jimmy Kimmel, impressive. Jimmy Hart has won Pennsylvania. Jimmy Kimmel has won New Jersey. Yeah. Jimmy Chamberlain or Jimmy Chin? Jimmy Chin. Yeah, Jimmy Chin. Jimmy Chin has won New Jersey. Sorry, not New Jersey, Delaware, right? Jimmy Dore he's already won a state. So right now, here's our map. There's quite a few Jimmys that still haven't won any states yet. My head hurts now from when I did that. But the Jimmy primaries are still heavily crowded. In contrast to the other primaries, which are basically like coming to a close, the Jimmy primary is still gonna take quite some time. Because these are just the Jimmys that have won states, you know. Mr. Beast has won Georgia, so congrats to him. Jimmy Kimmel's actually doing pretty good. Like, Jimmy Kimmel's definitely doing much better than he has in some of the previous primaries. Let's see if he can keep that momentum going. Jimmy Dore has won Alabama. I have a headache now from when I did that. Why did I do that? Jimmy Chamberlain, I believe he's the last Jimmy to not win a state yet. No, that's too close to another one scholar. I'm just gonna give you black then. Jimmy Chamberlain. Jimmy Chamberlain. Yeah. Jimmy Dore has actually done pretty decent at this primary. Like, he's actually doing pretty fine. Let's see if he can keep this going. Yeah, he can, because he just won Arkansas, too. Nice. Congrats to Jimmy Dore. Another one for Jimmy Dore? Nah, it's gonna switch to Jimmy Hart. It switched to Jimmy Hart, but it was looking like Jimmy Dore could have won another state, but he just didn't. So, yeah. Jimmy Hart? Wait, no, Jimmy Hart or Jimmy Dore? Jimmy Dore, yeah. Whoop. Yeah. That's right, yeah. Okay. Jimmy Dore is doing amazing this primary. Damn. Mr. Beast is also doing pretty good. I think everyone's won a state now. Yeah. Jimmy Uso, though. Can we talk about how badly he's doing? Jimmy Uso's not been on his best game recently. He definitely needs to kind of, pick up things soon, or he's gonna be in devastating trouble. I mean, he's already in last place, I believe. Yeah, he's already tied last place with Jimmy Chamberlain, so definitely not a great look for Jimmy Uso. He's supposed to be the world's strongest fighter, but he's the world's weakest fighter, actually, it turns out. At least when it comes to presidential elections. Because bro cannot keep a state to save his life. Jimmy Donaldson, yeah, Mr. Beast, that's one Indiana. Jimmy Kimmel has narrowly won Illinois from Jimmy Fallon. It was a very close race, but ultimately Jimmy Kimmel won. Jimmy Uso. Okay, you know what? Maybe I underestimated Jimmy Uso. He is now no longer last. Last is now just Jimmy Chamberlain, who has done pretty decent in the other primaries, if I remember correctly. But he's just completely flopping this time. Just completely flopping. It's not a great look. Jimmy Hart, he's definitely had better primary days, but, Jimmy Hart's still doing pretty fine. He's definitely doing better than Jimmy Chamberlain. That's for sure. Jimmy Dore, though. Jimmy Dore's doing great. There's like a door, and Jimmy Dore opened the door, and it's been great for him since. Okay, Jimmy Chamberlain. Jimmy Chamberlain has won South Dakota, which means he's now tied last with Jimmy Uso again, which is, not great news for Jimmy Uso. That's not the news that he probably wanted to. I see Jimmy Chin's doing really bad too. Okay, Jimmy Uso is trying to defy this. He's trying to be like, he won Nebraska. He's trying to hold on to not being last. But Jimmy Chamberlain is fighting back because he just won Kansas. Narrowly, but he won it. They're fighting big time. But this means that Jimmy Chin's now in last. So neither Jimmy Chamberlain or Jimmy Uso is in last place. It's now Jimmy Chin is now in last place. So yeah. Jimmy Uso, okay, Jimmy Uso, he's trying to fight. He's actually doing a pretty decent job at fighting too. And Jimmy Dore is just doing so good. Can Jimmy Dore stop doing so good in this primary? Like, I swear Jimmy Dore has been like unstoppable these whole primaries. Mr. Beast has won Alaska. We still got this section of the country though. Who is this section of the country? Going to vote for. Starting off with Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart has seen better days. He's seen better days. He's seen better primaries, but in general though, he's still doing pretty fine. I think Jimmy Hart's probably safe. Yeah, Jimmy Hart just won Colorado too. Yeah, Jimmy Hart is probably safe. He's not one of the ones that's in massive danger of losing or anything. He's probably fine. I think Jimmy Uso, Jimmy Chin, and Jimmy Chamberlain are probably the ones that, honestly, yeah, are probably the ones at the biggest risk of losing right now. But I think I'm definitely leaning far more towards Jimmy Chin because he's doing terribly. I mean, Jimmy Chamberlain just won Montana. Jimmy Chin is doing awful. Jimmy Chin is doing terribly. He's doing absolutely awful. Winning only Delaware and North Carolina so far. It's been awful. This has been a terrible primary for Jimmy Chin. He can somehow maybe pull up a clutch here at the end, a tie with Jimmy Chamberlain or Jimmy Uso maybe. But it's not the greatest days for Jimmy Chin. I think it's most likely that he gets out here because everything else just looks so bad for him. Like, it really looks awful here for him. Yeah. He's so cooked. Jimmy Dore, however, is not, because Jimmy Dore is probably going to be in the first place here, because he's just doing so damn good this primary. There's another one for Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore won California. California, the place that we can't afford. Yeah. Jimmy Uso? Yeah. There's no way there's no way Jimmy Chin comes back. Even if Jimmy Chin wins the Oregon in Washington, Jimmy Chin can't come back from this. Yeah, it's over. Yeah, it's guaranteed over here for Jimmy Chin. Damn, what an embarrassing way to go out. 2 states. Yeah, what an embarrassment, bro. What an embarrassment. 2 states. Let me just make sure that, nobody wins 0 states. Yeah. Yeah, Jimmy Chin's out. Goodbye, Jimmy Chin. Winning only North Carolina and Delaware. Wow. So yeah, Jimmy Uso, Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Dore, Jimmy Hart, Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Donaldson, aka Mr. Beast, and Jimmy Chamberlain make it on to the next round. Goodbye.